Hi, also welcome to Time and Talk. Today's video, I thought I'd make a video about rich people and their watches. I'm not 100% sure what point I'm trying to make with this video, so it's not going to necessarily lead to a logical conclusion, but I just thought it was something that would be interesting to make a video about, particularly at the moment with all the things that are happening in the watch world. So to start with, I was thinking about this because it came across a post on Instagram where it was basically a chart plotting all of the prices of Patek Philippe watches. And it was basically saying, Nautilus 5711 costs X amount and at retail, and this is the market value, and it was given the whole market value of the pieces and things like that. And I remember just feeling a little bit like, what, that is how much those watches go for, and that's crazy, and I not really interested in that, to be honest. That really high-end watch that's never going to be attainable for me. And then obviously the latest news in terms of Patek was the Tiffany dialed 5711, which I think, to celebrate the 170th anniversary of Tiffany, the jewelers, they produced the Tiffany dialed 5711 Nautilus, and that was going to be the only one available. The only one available was being sold at auction, and I think it went for 6 million or something like that. And the retail price of a Nautilus, of that particular Nautilus, if it would have been sold at retail, would have been what, 30,000. I was like, okay, so you're paying £6 million more than this watch is worth, and it's like kind of mind blown type thing. And it got me thinking about watches and the idea behind watches and what we like them for, really, because personally for me, watches and shoes and fashion and clothes and things like that are like an expression of individual style. And it seems, obviously, there's no such thing as individuals nowadays. It's difficult to be an individual. But it got me thinking that it's just this kind of echo chamber where rich people are just trying to buy all these markers and signs of how rich they are. And obviously one thing that shows how rich you are is a Patek Philippe Nautilus or an Aquanaut, maybe. And when I think about, watches that make me think of wealth, that's what I think of nowadays. I think of 4 primary types of watch. The first one is the Nautilus. So, if someone asked me to do a task to draw a rich person, what would I have them wearing? What would I have them looking like? I would draw them with either a Patek Philippe Nautilus, maybe in precious metal, maybe not. A Royal Oak, though maybe slightly less nowadays. And obviously the Patek market is absolutely crazy. It's like the high-end Rolex, if you like. And two other brands that I think of are Jacob & Co, which I don't want to come across as being negative about a brand, but Jacob & Co, I don't get it. I've never seen a Jacob & Co watch that I thought was tasteful or well designed. I just think they're ugly. But I think part of it is to do with, richer people who are richer than me want to show their individuality. Jacob & Co's a little bit different to the more traditional brands. And then you've got Richard Mille, which is obviously, one of the really, really high-end watchmakers. And I think about those watches, and I really, really like the design of the Nautilus and the Royal Oak. Being designed by Genta, something that really, really interests me. They've got history. Off the top of my head, 1976 was the Royal Oak, and then soon after was the Nautilus. And those watches are works of art, really. They're so of the time, and yet so current still, that it's something that does really interest me. However, the idea that a watch can sell for X amount above its market value, and that you have to belong to this club in order to be able to access it. That doesn't interest me, and it makes me feel somewhere the point's being lost in some instances. And there were people also on Instagram thinking, you know, I've been a Patek Philippe collector for this amount of time, and I've nurtured my my relationship with the brand and things like that. It makes me think, like, why do these companies do this? I don't get it. You know, what's Patek gaining out of someone else making money out of their watches? I mean, it's the exact same situation with Rolex. Why not just increase the prices? I mean, I get it that the luxury brands, what they do is they limit the supply of a product to make it more desirable, but you could still have the same limited supply and have the prices being much higher. Surely that would make them even more desirable, even more luxury, if you like. I can't comprehend why they would not increase the prices, because if a Nautilus costs 30 grand, that's already unattainable to most people. 60 grand, 70 grand, 80 grand, 100 grand, it's still unattainable for most people. So I don't really get that, because obviously the majority of the money is being made by somebody else. If you could explain it to me, that would be awesome. And Patek is also a company that you wouldn't expect to need to pander to people. So, you know, I read once that you have to fill in an application form to buy some Patek Philippe's, and they check whether you've sold them and stuff like that. They don't need to pander to anyone to get people to want their watches, so why not just increase the prices rather than let other people benefit from it? I don't understand. It's also interesting, another side note in relation to the Tiffany thing. You know, Tiffany is now owned by Lvmh, which themselves have watch companies, and it seems like a weird conflict of interest, but I could be wrong about that. In terms of other things, I mean, the idea of Jacob & Co. I mean, tell me, am I missing the point with Jacob & Co.? I think they're a relatively new brand. I think they might have been formed in the 90s. For me, a brand is not only about its history, so new brands can be good. I'm not saying that they're not. But Jacob & Co. does not have any history. It does not have... Aesthetically, I don't get it. They're not aimed at me. I could not pull off a Jacob & Co. watch. It would look ridiculous. But I just don't get it. And another interesting thing, I think recently I've been getting into Cartier more. And I saw a post on Instagram of a Jacob & Co. product. And it was a diamond encrusted set of handcuffs, and it was supposed to be a piece of jewelry, and I just thought, how incredibly tasteless is that? You know, why would anyone buy that? And I think to a certain extent that's the market they're going for. They're doing that deliberately. But I was looking yesterday on the Cartier website. I was comparing it to the Justin Clou bracelet and ring and earrings and things like that, and that is a design which is, for me, quite a daring design. Obviously, just Justin Clou means just a nail, so it's making a nail, you know, an object that has no real significance into a piece of high jewelry. I think Jacob & Co. were going for that sort of thing, but it's just ugly and horrible. I don't get it. So yeah, so just another point in terms of, you know, rich people and their jewelry, if you like. I'm not slagging off rich people at all. You know, if you're rich, great. I'm jealous. But I do think it's interesting. And another one is Richard Mille. And I like Richard Mille watches. I think they're interesting. Again, they don't have the history of some other brands. But I do think the designs are interesting. I would wear one if I had the money. I would wear it only with certain things. I can't stand it when people wear Richard Mille's with suits and with smart clothing. It's like wearing an Apple Watch with smart clothing. I don't get it. But, you know, it made me think about why I like watches and what I like about them. I think, and I'll probably make a whole video about this at some point because it's something that interests me. One of the reasons why I like watches and clothes and things like that is the idea that we're searching for some kind of authenticity. So for example, you know, in a Rolex watch you find history and you find it's being manufactured to high standards, and it's also something that's got a certain, I mean, not really now, but particularly in the past, Rolex watches were attainable to the average person, and you know, you could keep it as a companion for the rest of your life. And it's the same with anything really, with shoes and with clothes and with things like that. I'm always interested in finding out what was the first version of this, or who invented this product, and can I get that version, you know, to have some connection with something. It's about brand loyalty, I guess, and things like that. And also the chance to buy into something that's kind of special and meaningful. I mean, I think some of these brands are amazing in the way that they do things, you know, Cartier and Rolex and Omega and things like that. You're buying into a philosophy and identity, and you're using that to express something about yourself. And perhaps that sounds really shallow, and it is to a certain extent, but I think the way the world's gone nowadays, with kind of, you can buy a watch off Amazon for 1 penny, and you can get clothes that are made in China or Indonesia or wherever with no thought put into them. Watches for me and fashion to a certain extent can allow you to go above that, or try to. And it's not me saying I'm better than anyone or whatever. But when I saw that post about Patek Philippe and about Tiffany dialed Nautilus that sold for £6 million, it just made me think, that's not why I like watches, and that's not something that appeals to me really. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned that this video's going to come across as being quite negative. It's not meant to really, but I just think it's an interesting one. You know, what do you think about these really, really high level brands who are only available to certain people, but are also, it's not just that with these watches, it's the fact that on the secondary market people are making so much money, and that Nautilus, even a normal Nautilus at market value, costs more than my house, and probably most of my family's houses put together. You know, is that something that we want to get on board with? Yeah, so tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about the new Nautilus and those other brands, Jacob & Co. If you know something about that brand that I don't, let me know, and I'll maybe reappraise my thoughts of it. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.